Everybody, Grid21 back with another video, and today I'm coming to you with a bit of a different video than what I normally would, I guess, produce. I know I usually make a lot of tutorial videos and a lot of stuff about OBS and everything, but today we're going to be talking about some plugins that I use in FL Studio that I've had the chance to learn over the last year or so as we're winding down in 2020 and coming into 2021. I wanted to talk about some of the plugins that I've learned how to use in this year and will continue to use going to the next year, and maybe you guys will also find really useful for yourself if you're getting into sound design or in music composing. And this will be a collection of both free plugins and some paid for plugins. A couple of these plugins I had because I had previous accounts with like Studio One, Personas, and some other places like Slate. I think one thing is called it's Slate Digital, has some really cool stuff. So this will be a mix of all those little plugins and stuff. I will try to provide links for them. If not, just go ahead and go Google them, and I'm sure they'll definitely come up in a search result for sure. But we're going to head and just transition over to FL Studio. I'll play you part of a track that used a few of these plugins, and then I'll just drag in some additional stuff to show you what I've been using more recently. I have projects that are using these new plugins, but because they're not really ready for like public release, I don't want them on YouTube, obviously, because of that, just production reasons, obviously. But the track that I will be using is called Glitched. It's on my SoundCloud. You can also buy it on Bandcamp. There's a link for it in the description below. So, and also please make sure you like this video as well. It kind of helps other people find it, and it's a good reference back to you if you go back to your liked videos and subscribe and all that other cool stuff. So let's go ahead and jump over the computer and try it out. Well, we're already on the computer, but you know what I mean. So transition. All right. So this is my track, Glitched. This came out a couple months ago, and it's rather a kind of a heavily produced track with a lot of automation and such. But what we're going to be talking about is what's in the mixer tracks. So this is the entire mixer track for the project. We've got a series of things such as Ozone and the TAL-REVERB and a couple other things. So we're going to head and look at how I use these plugins and why I use them. So first plugin we're going to look at is Ozone Elements 9. This is a paid-for plugin. This is by Isotope, and I really enjoyed using it because there's a lot of fun ways to, like, for example, if you select the high frequencies, there's different types of EQ curves you can do, like a Q, bell, band shelf, a couple other ones that are like low shelf, high shelf, low pass, high pass, EQ options. And this plugin has just been so much fun for me to use. Now, granted, FL Studio does have a built-in EQ plugin that I believe kind of more or less supports it supports more like automation stuff. I don't think this particular plugin plays nice with FL Studio's automation abilities. I really haven't a chance to test that, so I can't really say for sure whether that's true or not. It's something I have to look into, obviously. But if you wanted a free plugin, you can definitely use what's built in FL. If you wanted something a little bit more that does more than just EQ, you can look into Ozone. And Ozone has just, 4 basic, bands of your low, mid, high, low, mid, high, mid, and high frequencies and stuff for adjusting. There's also a really cool way where you can solo certain frequencies that you're listening to, which I will go ahead and just solo out I believe this is the submix for this. Let me go over here, make sure there's a submix. Yes, so you can solo out different frequencies like that and listen to the entire mix or a particular frequency if you want to. Or you could listen to this section or this section or that, and it kind of gives you a really cool way to figure out what in your mix doesn't sound right, if there's something that needs some adjusting. It's a really fun way to find that out really quickly. Then you go back to the this little option here, which lets you continue to adjust. There's also analog and digital. I'm not sure if I know what the differences are. I usually just leave it on analog and everything sounds fine as it is. You can experiment with that yourself, see if you get a different result. You can also, I believe this is the frequency going into the mixer, or not the mixer, the EQ, and the frequency going out. So if you wanted to, have it quiet or a lot, and then, you know, have that. You can do that as well. So there's that kind of a nice little adjustment for it. I think I left this around like +7, and I think I had this down at like 0. You can also, these are linked, so you can choose to unlink each of these left and right channels should there be a special occasion where that's needed. You can do that as well. But my other favorite things about this is the imager. And this kind of creates, I am so sorry, my phone's going off more than it should. This lets you kind of create a wider stereo image for your mix. And so basically I can, I'll turn this off and you'll notice a bit of a difference here perhaps. YouTube compression might destroy this, so it might be hard to tell, but... And then if you want to, you could change your stereo width so it's like much broader. Add a lot more stereo if you wanted to as well. So those are some things that you can do to kind of help create that broader feel and have that, you know, nicer stereo image to it. So that's one of the things that it has is that imager. And then over here is the maximizer. Now, I don't know if I can properly explain a maximizer. I can only explain it by what I feel like it does. But to me, and what it felt like is that it helps create more of that like nice, you know, punchier kick is what I feel like I've gotten, you know, out of that. Again, you could definitely do some more research on your own and experimenting and stuff, but it has this maximizer. I think for me, what I've noticed is that it creates a lot more of a heavier punch in my drum tracks and stuff. And I really like that feel. It reminds me a little bit of a compressor, but again, don't quote me on that. I could be a little bit wrong, but it's a plugin that it's a part of the plugin that I like and I enjoy. There's also some mastering presets with this as well. Let's close this and let's go look at that. So I have Ozone as my final out in the for the mastering, and I just kind of picked a like a full master option, but you can pick a variety of different options that are built into it if you just don't know what you want to hear. The only advice I would give about this, because this is just from, again, a lot of this is based off of my experience, what I simply did was I just clicked through different options, figured out what I felt like sounded the best, and then applied it to the track. And then if I feel like it sounded good, just by trusting my ears with what it sounded like, that's how I made the final mix for my from my track and everything. So that is Ozone. I don't know how much it is, but I know it's by Isotope, so you can go check that out if you want to. There's also some like mid-side and stereo things that I'll have to do more experimenting in because I've never really touched a lot of those, but I'm sure that they'll obviously adjust how your mix sort of sounds and everything. So there's that. The other plugin that I've really been a fan of, and this is a free one, so we're going to talk about some free ones here. Let's see, where is it? I know it's in here. Oh, the TAL-REVERB. TAL is a free reverb plugin. Now, again, your DAW that you already have, Digital Audio Workstation, will probably already have a reverb built into it. But if you want something kind of different, excuse me, for your mixing, you can look into the TAL-REVERB plugin. And it's super straightforward with this one. You can have stereo width, input stereo, wet, dry, sliders. You can have room size, pre-delay. There's an EQ that's built into it. I usually zero out the EQ because I find that my mix, like I'll end up just creating my own EQ of my own design, what I feel like is better than what this can do. Like I said, it's not a bad EQ, but it doesn't, like, I guess it's supposed to help EQ the reverb. But if you're going to EQ your reverb, you might as well just create like subgroups like what I do. For example, I had a tall reverb on this track, and then I EQ'd out some of the lower and high frequencies to help mitigate any extra resonance in my reverb, because reverbs are great, but they can also cause like a resonance in your mix that you're not really going to need, or not necessarily need, but don't want. And so this just, between these two, I used it to help sort of filter out some of those offending low, resonance and high resonance stuff to create that drum mix. But it's a really great, simple little plugin. I don't know who makes it, but just look up TAL
TAL-REVERB, and you should be able to find it and download it. All these plugins are VSTs, by the way, as most DAWs will use VSTs and VST3s and stuff. As you see, I got quite a few of them in my library of stuff. So that's a TAL-REVERB, super straightforward. Another plugin that I've been interested in is called Fresh Air, and this is let's apply it to, let's just put it right on the drum track. We'll just use a drum track for the sake of this demonstration. So Fresh Air is a really fun little plugin that I've been using recently. And what Fresh Air basically does is, and I can only explain it by what I hear, but it creates a very open kind of a mix. It just seems to really bring out certain frequencies that just make, I don't know how to describe it. It just, what we'll do is we'll play with the drum track, because it's the easiest thing to mess with here. I'll go ahead and play this drum track and kind of show you a little bit, and you can take a listen to what it does as I adjust things here. So as you can kind of hear, it kind of like opens up that drum kit to just sound like much more airy, much more kind of alive almost. It kind of brings some life to that, that sort of feel and everything. And I absolutely freaking love this plugin. I'm almost using it in like everything that I mix, although I probably shouldn't do that. The cool part about it is that this plugin is one of those things where you need just a little and you don't need a lot. Excuse me while I exit my Steam here. But you only need just a little bit to create a lot of really great, just huge openness, and it's such a great sound. I really wish I had known about this plugin before I released this track. For those of you that are wondering too, if you guys want to know more things about FL Studio, you should check out the YouTube channel called In The Mix. And he does a lot of videos about FL Studio, about mixing, routing, stuff like that. And a lot of what he has taught in his videos, I've applied in practice here. And maybe one day I'll do my own FL Studio tutorials and stuff. So the Fresh Air plugin is free. It's by or I think it's by Slate Audio. Let me go double check that. I believe it's by Slate Audio. It doesn't say who makes. Yeah, it's these guys. The Slate Digital. There we go. Slate Digital is who makes it. So and it comes with a user guide, which is kind of cool. So yeah, check it out. Free plugin, totally fun, and I think you'll really enjoy the feel of it. Hopefully, you'll also have some air in your mix. All right, so the next one we're going to talk about is called the Vinyl plugin, and this is really fun. Again, we're just going to use the drum track because it's just the easiest thing to mute, and obviously you can see right away it's immediately doing what it's supposed to do. So let's talk about what it does. All right, so let's just zero everything out here, and I think it's getting a little upset because I'm recording. So the Vinyl plugin by iZotope. This is, I believe, still a free one. I don't know if they've changed that at all or not. But the Vinyl plugin allows you to recreate the sound of an old classic turntable. If you guys, grew up with records like I did, that classic turntable feel of, your parents, your boomer parents playing those boomer tracks and everything. And they play those, classic, Irving Berlin and Frank Sinatra type of stuff and everything. And this plugin digitally recreates the sound of a vinyl record player. And you can change the year in which that track sounds like it's from. You can also adjust the RPM. You can add dust, scratch, warp, the model, which sets the shape of the warp curve. This one adjusts the gain of the scratch, the gain of the dust, the mechanical noise, electrical noise, and a lo-fi sort of a sound. And then a spin down just goes like, so let's go ahead and play with that. I'll first take it through all the years that it is listed, and then we'll kind of play with some other things here. I'm going to actually tell FL to loop this section here. And let's go ahead and hit play and just kind of take a listen to what it does. So as you kind of see, as you heard there, obviously, I'm gonna switch to pattern mode. As you heard there, it kind of created like, you know, from the very like no, you know, bassy sound to all the way to 2000 of. So it creates this, you know, this year effect kind of a thing. I'll go ahead and play with some of the other things. You guys can, again, just take a listen with your ears and what you feel like that you're hearing and stuff. We'll play with the dust, scratch, and warp, and I'll also mess with the mechanical and electrical noise. So here we go, and I'll leave it on the 1930s sort of a feel. I might play with it a little bit to kind of give you an idea of some possible combinations of things. So here we go. And so, as you can see, obviously, even if you pause the track, the sounds of the record still kind of continue on, obviously. I was getting a little bit lost, actually, I was getting a little mesmerized, honestly, playing with that. But you can kind of get the idea that basically this really creates the sound of a really old vinyl record. And I think I think it does the job very well. So if you want that plugin, it's called Vinyl. It's by Isotope. Just search Isotope Vinyl plugin or something like that. It should come up on Google. Or again, I'll try to see if I can find the links for stuff. A lot of these plugins that I grabbed were either when they were like kind of like free at the time, or were things I just apparently had in my like Personas account and didn't know I had. So, but you can still definitely get them yourself and create a similar effect. Let's see, what other plugins have I been messing with I thought were pretty influential in deciding some stuff. Valhalla Supermassive, not one I've played with a lot, but that's another really fun, huge, that's been a fun one to mess with. I'll just kind of drag it out here and switch this to, this is just a really massively huge plugin that has a bunch of different like little presets of stuff you can do for echo, synth, voice, quarter notes, looping, mod, ensembles, flanging, ambience, reverb, like it just it goes on. It's a really again, the name Valhalla Supermassive. So anyway, this is a plugin that I've had and really haven't had a chance to play a whole lot with it, but it's one I learned about from Andrew Hong, who's a music YouTuber and just composer on YouTube, obviously, as I said that twice. But he talked about that plugin and such. Isn't one really I haven't used a lot, but it's one I think I might try to use a little bit in future for some things. And the only other plugin I think I want to talk about, and one that I don't use that often, but is still worth noting, is the Ozone Elements. And again, this is by I believe this is by Isotope as well. This one I believe is also a paid for one, but it is also still very good at what it does. So let's talk about this. So I'm gonna be honest, I have trouble EQing drums. Drums are one of the hardest things for me to mix properly, to sound really, really good, and to feel like I have something that just doesn't sound obviously bad. I don't want it to sound bad. And what Neutron Elements lets me do is there's some couple different, I'm gonna call this almost like AI type of like learning or feel or something to it, where I can tell it to whether I want a broadband clarity, warm and open, or upfront mid-range. And you can also, again, pick there's some cool presets you can decide. And these are, but what I like about it more specifically is not necessarily the presets that it comes with, but the fact that it's actually able to listen to your track and then decide what kind of EQ, oh, sorry, I'm not playing any audio. It's gonna like, here, let me close. So it will decide the EQ, the compressor, the exciter, and transient shaper to create something that sounds relatively really, really good. So let's go ahead and put this on loop, and I'll play this, and I'll tell it that I want let's do a upfront and mid-range since it's drums. And then we'll now take that information, and it takes about 4 to 10 seconds to listen, and you can see it's kind of working in the back here. It will create a EQ curve, and I see that it used the exciter to kind of add, I think exciter adds like a little bit of, like it does something with certain frequencies to make them, I guess, kind of sound more defined a little bit. And then it looks like it added a compressor here. But let's say I didn't like that. Let's say I wanted a broadband clarity instead. And there we go. It completely changed how everything sounds now. So readjusted the compressor, readjusted the exciter, and readjusted the EQ. So you can see where if you're really just not familiar with, mixing certain instruments, I know I still definitely am trying to learn how to mix certain instruments based on what I feel like my ears want to hear and what I want for the track. This plugin is a really awesome way for, I think, some newer people to kind of get used to EQing a little bit. Now, granted, it's not perfect. It is by a computer. There are going to be some cases where it just doesn't sound right. Like, for example, like I think I would have probably added like a bit of a high shelf for some of those, cymbals and stuff like that. Or I know they're not called cymbals. I forgot what they're called. I'm a little bit drawing a blank on drum kits at the moment, but you can adjust your EQ as you want to by adding more points to it. Also, sorry for the feedback. My microphone and speakers are really close together. I don't have the ideal setup, so just work with it. Sorry about that. I should have mentioned at the top of the video. But anyway, so yeah, Neutron Elements. There is another version of Neutron Elements, but it's a little bit more advanced, and I just don't have that one. But there's another one that's similar to this that uses some like computer learning, like AI adjusting type stuff, and it's a pretty fun little plugin. Again, I think this one is a paid for one, but it's still worth noting and fun anyway. And okay, so the only other one I have, I'm sorry, I just thought of this one while I was sitting here. The only other plugin that is really fun to use, but tricky to set up, especially in FL Studio, and I still have to learn how to do that, is the Vocal Writer by Waves. Waves Audio. And this one is really super simple. Unfortunately, I don't have the ideal scenario in this particular song to to set it up. I have to kind of retrain myself about how to do it. But the gist of the idea is that it will basically has an input signal and an aux signal in, and it will, by these parameters that you set in the interface, allow you to adjust the volume almost like a compressor, sort of, dynamically based on the signals that it's receiving. So if you've got a vocalist that's singing, you can then send it your music audio into Vocal Writer, and then it will attempt to decipher and adjust the vocalist, or in some cases the music, to turn down or up based on your vocalists, that if they're singing behind with some, if there's some music behind them, Vocal Writer is meant to help adjust those volumes of music on the fly for you through some it's just basically a form of an automation, essentially, without you sitting there making automation points in your timeline of your audio. It works better in other softwares, such as I think I saw it used in, I think it was, I don't want to say Reaper. It wasn't. I think it was Ableton. Works really well in Ableton apparently. It also works really well, I assume, in Studio One. However, in FL Studio, because of the way FL does, you have to use, I think, the Fruity Send, I believe, to set it up. Again, I have to do some investigating myself. I don't know if I can properly explain how to use it, but it is there, and it is a very useful plugin all the same. Or if you wanted to use it something for not vocals, but something entirely different, you can do that too. So I believe that is most of the plugins that I've been using, at least effects-wise. There's some really cool instrument plugins that I might touch on in another video. If you guys want a video about the different instruments that I use in FL, please make sure that you drop a comment section down below and let me know if you want to see what are some of my favorite synthesizers in FL Studio, because there's quite a lot of them, but there's also a lot of really good, traditional instruments that are used and played in softwares like Contact, as well, as I recently got that too. So that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched through the entire 25 minutes of this video, you're a legend. I appreciate you greatly. If you want to talk more about music or audio, please check out my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/grid21. I stream Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I stream a variety of different games, and sometimes I stream audio production as well. So do that. Please like the video as well, as it helps other people find the video, and also makes it so you can come back to later if you need to, and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and follow my social media. And I think that's all the self-promotion I can do in a video. So until then, have a good rest of your day, and Happy New Year based on when you see this, and if not, then hello from the past, I guess, of 2020, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. So take care. See ya.